Gimel Amud Beis, the Mishnah at the top of the Amud. Zok the Mishnah b'chamisha asar boy shulchanos hayuyeshim b'Medina. So we're talking now. We come to the mitzvah of the Masechet Shekalim. We make the announcement at the first day of Odin. By the 15th, they start to set up money changers, and they set it up b'Medina. There's a machlokes. What does Medina mean? Does Medina mean the areas outside of Yerushalayim? Or does it mean that Medina means outside the base of Mikdash in Yerushalayim? They set up money changers so that the people come, they bring their money. They don't necessarily have a Masechet Shekel. They can exchange the money that they bring for the equivalent value of the Masechet Shekel, and then they're given the Masechet Shekel to bring it to the base of Mikdash. So then they will start to set up the money changers on the 15th day of Adar. On the 25th day, they sat in the Mikdash. So depending how you learn what the Medina is, then the Mikdash, if Medina means outside Yerushalayim, Mikdash means Yerushalayim. If Medina means Yerushalayim, outside the base of Mikdash, this would refer to the Har HaBayis. It was done specifically on the 25th because they needed the new money, the new shkolim Masechet Shekel, that they needed over there to bring the money for the new korbanos. The animals that they bought for the new korbanos needed bikor. They had to be examined, that there should be a mum, they had to be examined to make sure there's no blemish for at least 4 days. And so therefore, on the 25th, you have 4 days. The Chodesh Adar is always chaser, 29 days, and they would have the money there for the new korbanos to be makriv on Rosh Chodesh Nisan. So on the 25th day, the Yashav Mikdash, Misha Yashav Mikdash is Chilul Mashkin. From the time they sat in the Mishkan, they started, for people who didn't give the money, they started to seize their assets in order to cover the Masechet Shekel. It's me Mashkin. Who did they mashkin from? They take that from Levim, the Israelim, from Levim Israel. And Levim also were obligated, and even though they were not part of the general counting of Klal Yisrael, they're counted separately, they still have the mitzvah of Masechet Shekel. So Levim Yisrael, v'gerim v'avarim mishuchrim, and gerim and freed slaves, avaloi noshim v'avarim uktonim, but not noshim, not women. It says the parasha says by the Masechet Shekel, it says ish, so it says that it's specifically a man. Perhaps there's a din whether we consider this mitzvah shlo zman groma. It's not a zman groma because it can be given any time. But nevertheless, it says that the pasuk says kisisa as rosh b'nei Yisrael v'kudehem v'nosnu ish. So it has to be dafka man. So loy noshim va'avarim, and not slaves who are not freed, and not ketanim, and not minors, not ketanim. But if the father started to give shkolim for his son, then if he started already, shuv ain't a paisik, then he has to continue. Even though there might not, it wouldn't have healed, but if he did it voluntarily, then he can't stop. There's a machlokes in the Meforshim. Does that mean that we're mashkin the father, or that we're not mashkin the father? It's a mitzvah for them to do it. So that's a dion in the Meforshim. But al kolpanim, once he starts shuvin a paisek, we don't take a mashkin from the kahanim ibnei darkei shalom because of darkei shalom. Because even though they have to pay the Masechet Shekel, we don't force them. We'll see in the Gemara the particulars of this halacha. So now the Mishnah is going to talk about the Kahanim. There was a din of the Kahanim of the Mechuyev or not Mechuyev in the Masechet Shekel. Amar Rav Yehuda Hey ben Buch b'Yavne, he was made in Yavne. That called Kain Shekel and a Chayt. That a Kain who gives a Masechet Shekel, he's in a Chayt. Meaning, he held that there's no chiyuv for a kohen to give the Masechet Shekel, as we'll see shortly. But he held they can do it voluntarily. Meaning, you might think that since there's no chiyuv, and you might think that he was giving it, and it's a nedava, it would be considered to be a nidvas yochid. And therefore, how can you bring the korban tzibur from it? So therefore, we say no, it's ein a chayta. Even though he's not mechuyev, but if he does donate it, he's giving it wholeheartedly to hektish, to the tzibur, and therefore it's considered a korban tzibur. It's considered a nidvas tzibur, and the korban that you buy from it is a korban tzibur. So that's what he's made. that kol kain shekel ain't a chayta. Omar lo Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, he said to him, no, loiki, that's not so. Ela kol kain she'ein a shekel chayta. Opposite, no. If he doesn't give the shekel, he's chayta. He's mechuyev to give the machzis a shekel. Ela shekaim darshan mikras alas. The kahanim darshan this pasuk for their own benefit. What do they darshan? How do they darshan to say that they're potter? As follows. It says v'chol minchas kain kolil tiel loiseach. It says the mincha of a kain should be burnt completely; it can't be eaten. As opposed to the mincha of Yisrael, where you take the kaimets, your kaimets, and you burn the kaimets on the mizbeach, and the rest of it is eaten. The mincha of a kain is completely burnt; it's not eaten at all. So if that's the case, well, if you would say that we have to contribute to the matzahs of shekel, well, then that would mean that the oimer, the minchas ha'oimer and the shtei lechem and the lechem upon him, that would mean that it comes from us. It's also considered ours if we are contributing to them. And if we're mechuyev to them, we're not doing it voluntarily, then we don't have the svara that they're doing it wholeheartedly. So they're contributing it to it. And therefore, you say that it's considered that they have a chiv to contribute, that it's considered therefore to be their korban. And if it's because their korban, then it shouldn't be able to be eaten. It should fall under the category of a minchas kain kolil, that it's kolatia loisei achel, that it's not eaten. LMI, from the fact that you see that it's eaten, you see that we don't have a chiv to contribute. So the Gemara will go into detail into this discussion. Zok the Gemara, ein mashkin as a cotton. The Mishnah said we don't take a mashkin from the cotton, but halitvaya, but you do demand the machzas shekel from the cotton. Ador the Tamar, where is this mentioned? If Shehevi Shtei Saras, it's only a cotton who is old enough that he has Shtei Saras. Avalim Loi Hevi Shtei Saras, but if he's lower, less than that age, if he's younger, if he's Loi Hevi Shtei Saras, Lebedor, it's not included in this halacha. But Ulamashkan ain't a mashkin, but we don't, nevertheless, even if he's Hevi Shtei Saras, we don't take a mashkin until he's older. We don't take it ad ben esrim, until he comes into the category of ben esrim from 20 years and older, where is the chiyuv on the Yisraelim to give on Klal Yisrael to give the matzah shekel. Keni masnisa, the Brisa teaches ein memashkenin as a kohanim. We don't take a mash from the kohanim. It's not the version that we have in the Mishnah. It says mibnei derech hakovet. Our Mishnah says mibnei derech sholem, midarki sholem. In Brisa says mibnei derech hakovet, meaning that we have to give extra kovet to the kohanim, that we have to treat them with extra kovet, and therefore it's not bekovedik to take a mashkin from them. We ask them, we demand it from them, the matzah shekel, but we don't take a mashkin. Rav Yehuda, Rav Yehuda says that Ben Bukhari was meyed, so Ben Bukhari said that a kohen that he gives a matzah shekel, he's not chaytim. Meaning there's no chiyuv, but if he gave it, he's not chaytim. Rabbi Berechia, he said, time of the Rav Yomi Masechet argues, and he says the mechuyev. So what's the time of Rav Yomi Masechet? He said as follows: Zeh yitnu. The Torah says, Zeh yitnu kol oiver. This is the one that should be given. This should be given anyone who's in the census. So it says Zeh yitnu. It says Zeh. So the gematria of Zeh is Zayin and Hey is 7 and 5 is 12. Zeh yitnu. So Zeh yitnu kol oiver up kudim. Shnei matzah shvatim yitnu. So it's a gematria of 12. All 12 shvatim have to give the matzah shekel. Rabbi Tevi b'shem Rav Hamnuna came b'shem Chacham Rabbi Yehuda. So he said that the Chachamim who agree with Rabbi Yomi Masechet, this is what and how they asked on Rabbi Yehuda. That how could you say that the Kohanim are not mechuyev in the matzah shekel? Chatas yochid meis. We have the case of a chatas yochid. We have the 5 cases of Allah Moshe Sinai that a korban chatas, it belongs to a yochid. That in these cases it's left to die. It's not left to graze till it gets a mum, it's left to die. For instance, achatas shekipru ba'alehem, that if the balim, that the korban was lost, and their chatas was lost, they brought another korban, another behemoth for the korban chatas. They already had kapara. Then you found the original one. It's left to die. We don't say that it grazes to get the mum and use the money for a korban. So that's a din by a chatas of yochid. But ein chatas tzibur mesa. But it doesn't apply to the chatas of a tzibur. So you see this distinction between the yochid and the tzibur. Minchas a yochid kreva kol. The mincha of a yochid, if of a kain, the mincha is completely burnt. Not like the korban of Yisrael, that it's only the kaimetz, it's complete by a kain, it's completely burnt. But in minchas hatzibur kreva kol. But the mincha of a tzibur is not completely burnt. So you see that there's a distinction between the tzibur and between the yochid. So just because the mincha of a kain is completely burnt, that doesn't apply to a mincha of a tzibur, so you have no raya from the minchas ha'omer. And the shtei lechem and the lechem upon him, you have no raya from that. Because the din of that the mincha of a kain is completely burned is only by a mincha v'yochid. But the Gemara asks a kasha on this, which the Gemara is not going to answer, but it asks a kasha on this v'kasha. Do you say Meshivin Lodam Davar Sheina Moedaba? Do you ask a kasha on something based on a principle which he himself does not agree to? Because you're saying this distinction, but he himself doesn't agree to this. This time we learned in the Mishnah Shein Chatas Tzibur Mesa that the Tanakama says the Chatas Tzibur it is not left to die. It's only by a Chatas Yachim. But Rav Yehuda Imer Thomas. But Rav Yehuda says Thomas. So you see that Rav Yehuda himself does not make this distinction. So can you ask a kasha on someone based on a principle which he himself is not moided to? But upon him, they did ask this kasha. Now, but who Ma'isiv Lo review the answer is as follows: Zu lo nidvas yachidi. This is not considered a nidva v'yachid. It's not considered a nidva v'yachid. It's considered to be a nedava, he's giving it to the tzibor. So it's not like his private nedava, he's giving it to the tzibor. Now if he's giving it to the tzibor and he doesn't give it wholeheartedly, therefore it won't be considered to be a nedava of a tzibor, and therefore it will be treated like a nedava of a yachid. And so therefore it doesn't have the dinim of a tzibor. Ve'inan mesivin law, but they answer, the Chum answer back, no, tzibor. Once he knows that he has to give it to the tzibor, and he's giving it to the tzibor, whether he gives it wholeheartedly or he doesn't give it wholeheartedly, it's given to the tzibor, so it has a din of a korban tzibor. So, kimish hu nidvas tzibor, and therefore it's treated like an adav of the tzibor. The pasuk says, "Ksiv kol ha'over al pkudim." Anyone who passes through the senses, Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Nechemia, Chad Amar. What is it referring to? Kol da'avar b'yama yite. When it says kol da'avar, kol ha'over, whoever passed through Yam Suf, he's mechuyev to give the masas a shekel, and therefore, who passed through Yam Suf? All of the Yidden, kol b'nei Yisrael. Harana Amar, the other one said, called the Avar Apigudaya Yiten. It means, no, the census, who passed through the census. Now, in the census, the Shevet Levi was not included in the general census. Therefore, Man Amar called the Avar B'Yama Yiten, who says that ever passed through Yamsuf, that's Messiah of Yachim Mitzake. It's a right of Yachim Mitzake that the Kohanim are mechuyev. Man Amar called the Avar Apigudaya Yiten, whoever passes through the census, Messiah Leven Bukhri, that Shevet Levi was not included, and therefore they're not mechuyev. See the Mishnah, even though they said that we don't take a mashkin from the noshim avanim v'ketanim, avalim shaklo, but nevertheless, if they donated, then mekabel yadam, we do accept it from them, even though they're not mechuyev. But if they gave it, we can accept it, and it can be used for the korbanos. Asks Kasha, what do you mean? How can a cotton give it? The cotton min hatayra has no ability to be makna. It's only midrabanan. So how can we now accept it from him, and therefore they have a transfer of the rishus, and now it becomes public funds and used for korban tzibur? If midaraisa, this is in the rights for korbanos, that he can't be makna. The Ksais answers that once the rabbanan instituted that he can, now his ability to be makna has a din, is a kayach of a deraisa. Hanochi vakusi sheshoklu. if it a goy or a kusi, that if they gave the matzah a shekel, ain't mekabel mehem. We don't accept it from them. We don't accept these from them. Now, even though a nokri that brings an adova, a korban as an adova, we do accept it, but these we don't accept. And similarly, ve'en mekabel miyadam kinei zavim and kinei zavos kinei yoldos. The korbanos that the Torah is mechayev for the zavin and zavos and yoldos that they have to bring for to be matayar themselves, we don't accept it from them. And similarly, v'chatos v'hashamais, we don't accept them either. Now, these are korbanos that you cannot bring as an adova. These are korbanos that are coming as a chiyuv. They cannot bring korbanos a chiyuv. They can bring the dovas, but not korbanei chiyuv. You can't be menader a chatos or an asham or korbanos that the Torah is machayev for those who are tomei. You can't bring it as a voluntary korban. So zak klal kol shenider v'nidev, anything that can be donated mekal miyad, we do accept it from them. But kol she'ena nider v'nidev, but something that is not, ein mekal miyadam, we don't accept it. V'chein meforish al yedei Ezra, the pasuk says in beferish in Ezra, so it says shenemra loy lachem v'lanu liv lois beis bayis lelekenu. It's not for you and for us to build the base of Mikdash together. It's not for us to build together. It's only for us to build it. But they wanted to contribute. The Kusim wanted to contribute to the vineyard of the Beis Hamikdash when they were oila from Bavel. And as I said, no, it's not for the both of us. It's only for us and not for you. So you see that we don't accept from the Nochrim. We don't accept these types of contributions.